All right, so we're trying a little something new here. Something that Mike and Kyle have been wanting me to do. Supposed to do it in April, but you guys know me. If you're listening to this, you watch the show. Uh, I kind of just go whenever I please. It's May 1st, close enough. Um, so if you're watching this and you haven't looked at the title that I put in on this thing, I am going to be talking about the Omen franchise. There was a new one released not too recently, not too long ago, more like I should say about 2, 3 weeks ago at this point. And the word on it was actually insanely positive, like in ways I couldn't really believe, in ways I thought people were kind of like full of shit, you know. But it got me peaked. It interested me, and the trailers were actually really good for it in a way where I was kind of getting set up for the disappointment in like, all right, you got a good trailer, but it's an early in the year horror release, and it's a prequel to a franchise that's not really known for its high batting average. At this point, I think you could probably say the before this movie, its batting average was more along the lines of a not even a Joey Gallo, because I don't even think this franchise has hit a home run, to be honest, before. And at least Joey Gallo, when that dipshit puts the bat on the ball, he can hit a home run. And this series hasn't so far. I guess more like a current in the season Glaber Torres. Sometimes you get a double up the middle or whatever, but um I got intrigued. At a certain point, I got intrigued. I didn't get to see it opening weekend. I maybe a week or two into its run, I got to see it. Box office is not doing that great, but I think the word of mouth is helping it out a lot. Um, Cost a good bit of money for the kind of movie it is. I think around 35 mil for a prequel to a franchise that's not really all that you know popular. Let's say, yeah, I'm looking at it now. The budget was 30 million, and it's grossed about 50 so far. So not the biggest bust in the world, but not exactly what the Walt Disney Company would want from a movie. Yeah, Disney put this out. Unbelievable. Um, but what I wanted to do before I actually did get to see it, because I was excited, was I wanted to go back and watch all of the Omen movies that were made beforehand. Um, uh, I'd seen one and two long time ago. Um, and I didn't dislike them. I liked the first one a good deal. Second one was fine, honestly, for what it was, but it didn't really light me up the way I needed to continue on at the time. There wasn't anything in the franchise coming out anytime soon that really wanted me to get going on it. Certainly not that fucking show they made on, I think, A&E or AMC or whatever, clearly trying to cash in on the Hannibal and Bates Motel uh little boom that they had in the early 2010s on TV. Nobody remembers it. And I didn't watch it for this because who gives a shit, really. Um, but I felt now was the time, especially since they were saying it was a prequel in the true sense of the word, not like, oh, we're setting it before the Omen, but like we're gonna kind of set up our own franchise and redo the Omen and blah 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 and all that. It's like, no, it's a prequel to the original movie released in 1976 by Richard Donner, the legendary Richard Donner. His first film, I believe, after spending a lot of time, excuse me, after spending a lot of time in TV. And so, yeah, I decided it's time to jump in before I got into the new one. So I busted out this box set. If you could get a better look at it here. Put out by Shout Factory not too long ago, a few years back. I picked it up, figuring I would at some point, finally finish up that franchise, and I did. I finally did. So what I'm going to do is just talk a little bit about each entry uh, in the franchise, including the new one. But with the new one, I won't talk about spoilers because it's new, and I do actually think there are some big, good surprises in there that I would like you guys to go out and see fresh. So we're gonna jump off with the first one, the first Omen, 1976. Thinking about the time that this movie was released, Satan was big time for the big red man. Um, we were coming off of the God is dead stuff that was going on in the time, the hippies and all of that. John Lennon saying God is dead, and God, God, Beatles are bigger than God, whatever the fuck he said. He's asshole he is. So there was a whole big thing with Satan and Satanism, and kind of like there was a reactionary thing going on where people were trying to scare, uh, the country, the world back into a sort of theological state of mind. And that kind of got kicked off with Rosemary's Baby in a big way. Big movie by Roman Polanski, based off a big hit book, and it kind of kick-started this whole thing. But like Texas Chainsaw and Black Christmas kind of got the whole slasher thing rolling. It wasn't really until another movie that was even bigger and really set the standard and the structure for all of the things going forward did we actually get the first true devil movie that just set the whole fucking world on fire. And that was William Friedkin's The Exorcist. Exorcist, big, like unbelievably successful, own franchise. I can get into that at some point in another episode here. But yeah, so The Exorcist was the one. It was the fucking one. To this day, you can't watch a movie about possessions, about a demon possessing somebody without the looming specter of the Exorcist hanging over that movie. And honestly, for good reason. It like Halloween, it kind of perfected it right out the gate. It's like bam, here, boom, masterpiece. You don't really got to try anything else. And so there was this big trend, God, Satan fighting it out in the box office and everything. So it was no surprise that at some point Fox was going to try to cash in on the action. And excuse me, at a certain point they got to the Omen. um you know it's it's the Omen. I mean, people tend to remember the Omen even if they don't really remember the movie itself, and kind of for good reason. It's kind of not the greatest movie in the world. It's good, I like it. It's a nice solid like B movie, flip side to the masterpiece A-list movie that was The Exorcist. It's doing some Don is a good director, even if this is like early in his filmmaking career. If it's not his first, it's definitely like his first big movie. um and he's taking his first big swing, and he's really trying. He does a lot of really good stuff with the suspense pieces. One thing that I think is really interesting when you take it into context of the time is that it's a pretty violent movie. There's pretty graphic, gory effects in here, and this is before the real big boom of the makeup effects artist as the star that would become the thing in the 80s with Savini and all those guys just throwing buckets of blood at the screen, um making things as violent and gruesome as they possibly can before the MPAA slammed the fucking door on them. So he kind of got in, right before everybody, which is interesting. Everybody talks about that in that movie, the big murder scene, which is when David Warner gets his fucking head cut off by a pane of glass, and it's you know still a pretty effective scene. A lot of Final Destination DNA in this movie, which is interesting too. You wouldn't expect the Omen to be a precursor to the Final Destination movies, but it's there. A lot of just like what's going on with the environment, and this thing's falling, and that causes to fall into that, and the blah blah blah. The Rube Goldberg X bullshit that fuels Final Destination gets it starting the Omen. I just hit the microphone. I don't give a fuck. So yeah, there's good stuff. I think the biggest thing that the movie does, which was big at the time, but I think doesn't really have the same power it does now, which is casting Gregory Peck in the lead role of the father who accidentally enters into this demonic antichrist conspiracy unwittingly. Mainly because at the time his career was a little bit of a lull. He had his own tragedy. His son committed suicide, so he was his whole life, his whole career was just in a weird spot. But he, no matter where he would, no matter what was going on in his life, everyone would always think of Gregory Peck as America's dad, the world's greatest dad, Atticus Finch, the guy from To Kill a Mockingbird. Iconic performance, and kind of role that could shadow over everything you ever do. And I think they were smart. They were kind of pretty smart in using that in this movie, since the whole juice of the movie is about this guy having to come to terms with the fact that he's going to have to kill his own child. Obviously, it's not his child; it's his adopted child, and it's a fucking demon baby born from a fucking um, a jackal, which is a fun little detail people like to forget. Oh, Damien was born by a jackal. Okay, would have liked to seen a little more detail into that, but we do. We get that. We finally get the prequel detail and some of that shit. So yeah, a lot of the juice at the time must have been like, oh my god, Atticus Finch is gonna stab the shit out of a little baby boy in a church. That must freak people the fuck out and got under their skin. But I don't think that really works today. I don't know, even unless you're a fucking cinephile freak like me and anybody who's watching this fucking shit, would probably have that kind of a reaction to it. Anybody that's watching it now is not going to have that reaction to the movie. They're just going to be watching a dad having to come to terms with, which is on its own, it's fucked up. Like, it's kind of a crazy concept. And an interesting thing about the movie is something we talk about on the show, which is how sometimes the ratings boards can end up telling you to take something out or do something different, which ends up making the movie more disturbing, even though they don't think it's going to go that way. Which is, this movie was supposed to end with him killing Damien. He was supposed to be a success. The MPAA said, nope, too disturbing. We can't have Gregory Peck murdering a child on screen. No. Go back and make it where he fails. He fails. And dipshit MPAA, not thinking that through to the very end, means the devil wins. The Antichrist survives to live another day and be a little prick in further sequels, which is just pretty fucking hilarious. So yeah, I mean, this is a solid movie. I would, on my Letterboxd, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think it's solid. I think it's good. I just think it's a little too long. I think it needs to be either needs to be more serious with its material, so like less focus on the crazy like death scenes and shit like that, and maybe with the acting not be as a little hammy, or go hammier. Be like a 90-minute Roger Corman movie about this shit, and not like like this grand Guignol mystery, which we already like. We know we're in the movie called The Omen. We know the kid's the Antichrist, so it's like a 2-hour movie, and you can feel the runtime a bit, which is really the biggest shame of the movie, because I think a little tighter and a little more focus could have gotten something a little better than we did, but hit the zeitgeist. It was popular enough to get a sequel 2 years later, in a time where sequels were not, all that common. And if a movie did get a sequel, it was kind of a low rent thing, not really getting all sorts of highfalutin shit the way we treat sequels now, like, oh, it's the next big event in this franchise. Not back then. And you can feel it in The Omen too. You can feel that it's not a priority to the studio, that they got a filmmaker that's kind of just like going through the motions. it looks good. It's not like doesn't look cheap or anything. Um, William Holden's a nice replacement for Gregory Peck. You also got Lance Henriksen in there for a little bit, which is nice. I always appreciate a little bit of Lance in a movie. Um, but they, you read up, they tried to get Donner back to do it, and he wanted to, but he was tied up in the Superman stuff, and he just couldn't. He couldn't do it. I wonder if he could have made something out of this, because I don't think the script in the first one was great, and the script on this one is even weaker. Not by much. It's not like an abomination of a movie, but it is weaker. It is kind of repeating a lot of the shit, a lot of the structure, a lot of the like, oh, what's going on? Is Damien the Antichrist? Oh, we got to figure this out, and you just feel like you're wasting your time, even more so than you do in the first one, because not only do we know by what movie we're watching, we know it's because it's the second one in the movie, and Damien's still alive, and weird shit is happening again, and Damien is starting to come into his own and realizing what he is and kind of accepting it. And there's some good stuff in here too. Good, like they keep up the trend with the violence. Good violence, good effects. And I'll give them the ending has a nice little swerve to it with um you not realizing that the adopted his aunt, who's kind of raising him with William Holden. William Holden's his uncle. Um, that she's one of the Satanists that are a part of the plan, and she kills William Holden right before he's about to try to kill Damien. And then Damien kills her and burns the whole fucking place to the ground, and just leaves you with the questions of like, oh, okay, well, Damien's fully on board with this shit now. What's the next one gonna be? And so yeah, this movie, it's not the worst movie in the world. It's a sequel, kind of repeating the same steps as the last one. So um, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever. Um, which brings us to uh the Omen 3, aka The Final Conflict. This comes out 3 years later, even though they shot it earlier. It took a while for it to come out, blah blah blah. Um Not a great movie. Again, the Omen franchise not filled with great movies. Not a great movie, but I do think I kind of have to give it the edge over Omen 2. Um for two big reasons. Well, first I'll just set it up with Damien's older now. He's a grown up. He's in politics. He's in the he's taken over the business that William Holden was running. He's now the big boss. He's rich. He's famous. He's all this blah blah blah, which is setting up his final move, up which is part of the prophecy that the Antichrist is gonna fuck everything up by getting into politics. That's how he will do his thing, and this is the movie where he finally starts getting it. The move into politics is finally getting underway. And that's interesting. I mean, that's definitely shit that has aged very well. This idea that politics is the way that the Antichrist, that the devil will fuck everything up, which is I don't know. Read a newspaper, watch the BBC News or whatever. Who's to say if that's aged correctly or not? But anyway, that stuff, that's an interesting premise. But again, you're kind of stuck in this phase of like, you can tell the studio didn't really care. So you have a filmmaker that's like a decent worker who's able to get this shit just on track, get it made, what have you. And it's solid in that way. So it's the two things that make this stand above um the second Omen is that Sam Neill is Damien. That's just great casting. A stroke of luck too, because he's young. By the time they filmed this, he hadn't even done Possession yet. He's not like he was just like young guy, coming from the Aussie scene, or I should say the New Zealand scene. Uh, Either or, I don't actually remember where he's from. Sorry if that's making you mad, but I don't care. You chose to watch me talk about stuff, and that's your fault. You reckon with God about that. And he's great in it. He's fantastic in the movie. You got to give him all the credit in the world for lucking out with that. And the second thing is that the third act of this movie gets really, really fucking dark and crazy in a way that I wasn't expecting any of these movies to get to, which is, um, they know that Jesus has been reborn, which is part of the prophecy. The Nazarene is going to be born and try to put a stop to what the Antichrist is doing. The Antichrist can't have that. So Damien realizes the day the Nazarene was born and uses his connections to get all of the birth certificates of every male child born on that day and puts a fucking hit out on infants. And you get a montage of infants being murdered. And that is fucking crazy in a way where I have to give them props for at least like going there. You're not seeing anything. This isn't a Serbian film. It's all off-screen shit. But even still, with that in your mind of, oh, they killed that baby. Oh, and they killed that baby too. Oh, and another baby. Oh shit, they're just killing fucking babies. What the fuck? It's pretty fucking wild. I gotta give them that. And yeah, so kind of, and it changes up the structure a bit. So there's not so much this mystery thing going on. We know. It's kind of like we know the mystery is more, is Damien going to be able to stop the Nazarene? And are we going to get another Omen movie with a bummer ending? And surprise, surprise, we don't. Damien gets killed. He gets killed. And it's a bit of a melancholy ending in the sense that the woman who killed him had to lose her own child to get to the point to be able to kill Damien. So, like, things aren't going to be great for her, no matter the fact that she saved the goddamn world from the Antichrist. And, but yeah, uh, kind of a happy ending for the Omen franchise at first. So yeah, and that would put it the end in the Omen franchise for a good bit of time until 1991, when fucking Showtime decided they were going to try to do made for TV sequels to older movies as like a way to, I don't know, boost subscribers or whatever and get people to watch. And, oh, we could do it cheap and we'll have the franchise name. It'll be good, blah, blah, blah. And let me tell you, they were wrong on every level. They were wrong. It was a wrong-headed idea. They were wrong to do it. I truly believe they are going to be punished in the afterlife for the things that they did on this movie, for what they made me have to go through watching this unrelenting piece of shit movie that is, let me get this right. I'm gonna give it the proper respect it deserves, for fuck's sake. Omen 4, The Awakening. Good job. Omen 4, The Awakening. Who gives a fuck? Movie's dog shit. I will not be spending too much time on this movie. I wish I didn't spend as much time as I did on the movie, which is like 90 minutes. Too long. Just too long. Another Antichrist baby's born, and oh, what are we gonna do? What's going on? It's a girl this time. Which, yay. Oh, wow, good switch up, guys. You made it a girl, so nobody would expect the Antichrist to be the devil's child. I don't, like, who cares? I'll give him the credit that it connects to the original 3 by the fact that she's not, the devil's child. She is Damien's child, because in the third one, Damien goes to Pound Town, and I guess that woman gives birth and dies or gives the baby up or whatever. They don't explain it really, or they do, and I forgot already because the movie fucking sucks, and I needed to like stab an ice pick through my eye and try to erase it from my memory. But yeah, it's terrible. It's cheap. It's not scary at all. It's boring. It's just a miserable goddamn experience. And you know that this movie is bad when the guy who made Halloween 5 may be the second worst Halloween movie, I'll say. Halloween Resurrections is worse. Again, that's another episode. But when the guy that made Halloween 5 is hired to make this movie, you're already off to a bad start. But then when he starts working on it and then quits halfway through the fucking movie and they have to replace him, come on. You know no good's gonna come of this. And nothing did. This is the worst. I mean, I know there's some fucking challenges there and like the Hellraiser, Children of the Corn, fucking like franchises or whatever, but Christ, this is one of, if not the worst horror franchise entry I've ever seen. It's bad. Really fucking bad. Don't watch it. You don't have to watch it. Even if you want to do like, oh, I want to watch the franchise before I see the first Omen, you don't have to watch this one at all. Don't do it. Unless you truly hate yourself and are looking for that final like push into giving up on cinema as an art form, maybe watch it. But if you respect your time enough, don't do it. Which essentially kills the franchise, other than they tried to make a TV series in '95 and there's not even a hyperlink for it on Wikipedia, so you know it's good. Came out in '95. So other than that, killed the franchise dead until they decided to do a remake in 2006. And kind of can't blame them for remaking it at the time. June 2006. They got the 666 marketing thing going on. But otherwise, I mean, it's a step up from that fucking Omen 4 bullshit, but it's not good. I'm sure if you never saw an Omen movie and it was 2006 and you wanted to just go to see a horror movie on a Friday night with some friends and whatever, kill some time, Friday night outing, whatever. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but it's forgettable. And especially if you've, like me, had seen the Omen movies, especially in such short turnaround time, and it was fresh in your mind, they just make some decisions that are so weird and arbitrary, and it's just an ultimately hollow feeling. You don't come away from this movie feeling really all that satisfied. Liv Schreiber is doing his damnedest. He always tries. Julia Stiles trying, kind of a thankless role. Same thing in the first one. They try to beef it up here, but it's ultimately thankless. Pete Postlethwaite plays the priest that warns them about it, which is, it's nice to see him. He's always got a good presence and things. There's really only two casting decisions in this movie where I go like, okay, that's kind of, that's neat. I'll give you credit for that, which is casting David Thewlis in the David Warner role, which feels like a good 1-to-1. That's like, okay, I see what you actually get from this guy to that guy. That's pretty smart. And I think honestly, like, it's actually a stroke of genius, which is a shame it's wasted in a piece of shit movie like this, is casting Rosemary herself, Mia Farrow, casting her as the evil nanny that is watching over Damien and making sure that his demonic dance can continue unabated. That's pretty smart. I got to give him credit for that. That's like a smart little meta casting there. Ultimately, no good. Would not recommend it. It's made by the guy who did fucking Max Payne and Die Hard 5. Ugh. So it's not going to be good. And it's not. It's bad. But it's not the worst in the franchise. So Gotta give him credit for that. Which that really did kill the franchise for a good long time. It's been almost 20 years since that remake, and we got this one. There was being developed for a while, and they got, it went through all sorts of shit with Disney buying Fox and all of that. So a little bit of time taken there to get through, but then that purchase was like 5 years ago at this point. So now any movie that comes out under that banner, unless it was held for 5 years, like the the Empty Man, which is actually really good. Not the Empty Man. Shit, what's that movie? It actually might be the Empty Man with oh god. Either way, whatever. There's some movie. This is a movie Disney decided to make. Essentially, is the point I'm trying to make here. And they were trying to get it made. Went through development. Then they found their filmmaker, Arkasha Stevenson, and her writing partner Tim Smith. They did their pass on it. And Arkasha directed it herself, and this is her feature debut. She had done some short films in the past, and she was doing a lot of television recent in between her short films and this. She did an entire season of Channel Zero, season 3, which is like, hey, give it up to anybody who does an entire season of TV, even though it's like 10 episode, 8 episodes, whatever it was, season of TV that we get nowadays. Great. Did an episode of Legion. She did a episode of the show Briar Patch, the show Brand New Cherry Flavor, and then this is her, feature debut. And you would think with a CV like that, you would get a movie that's not really all that special. Kind of feels a little directed by committee. Studio overlooks it. You got to hit these beats. Oh, it's a prequel. You got to have all this stuff in it, and just kind of make it safe and simple and whatever. Just IP brand, IP. Keep the IP safe and relaunch a new cinematic universe for us. So we got the Omen to work with. And that's not the fucking case at all. It's not the case at all. She made a fucking great goddamn movie. The people were right. This is a great movie. It is visually just extraordinary. One of the best looking horror movies I've seen in a long time. It's dark as fuck. It's dark. And while it has the similar structure of the original movie, where it's about trying to find out what's going on with this demonic conspiracy, who is going to be giving birth to the Antichrist. We know that this, something's going on, and Ralph Ineson is a priest who says, "Oh, there's insidious forces. They're trying to bring the Antichrist about. We got to find this girl. We believe she's the one that they're going to do." And it's like, the main character, played by Nell Tiger Free, who is unbelievable. Just it's unbelievable performance. This woman needs to be cast in so many more things after this. She needs to be a fucking star, without question. She's a nun, comes from America to Italy to this orphanage to help with the kids, as she's a novitiate, I should say. She's not a nun yet. She's going to be taking her vows soon enough. But strange things are afoot at the Circle K, and she doesn't want to believe Ralph Ineson at first. She's got her own backstory that makes her want to think that this is maybe not really happening. But then, things start going wrong, and she starts noticing this girl that seems like a good candidate for what these demonic fucks are going to do. And things spiral out from there. But so you got that central, similar sort of mystery thing going on that the first one has, but done in a completely different way. And there are surprises in this movie. I'm not gonna lie, they make some really smart fucking decisions in this movie. I'm not gonna spoil them for you guys. I do want you guys to see this either now if it's still playing in theaters near you, or on VOD, or on Blu-ray, 4K, whatever streaming service it comes out on eventually. I want you guys to watch. I want you to go in fresh, just knowing this is an Omen movie that kind of turns things on its head. Doesn't change things up. Not going to say that. There's maybe one retcon that amounts to nothing really. It doesn't matter. It's kind of just a detail thing that you could just explain away that, oh, somebody made a mistake in the first one by saying, oh, it's this when really was that. Doesn't matter. Really doesn't fucking matter. But uh this movie's dark. Like I said, this really shares more DNA with movies like Rosemary's Baby, with Possession, with the remake of Suspiria. It's got that kind of vibe. This is not pulpy at all. This is dark, dreary, miserable fucking movie with an outstanding central performance, and some truly fucked up things happen in this movie. Some fucked up imagery that you just know nobody at Disney was paying attention to this movie with the shit that they get away with. And uh I am I was just flabbergasted by this movie. I bet it's the best movie in the franchise, like without question. There's no doubt in my mind it's the best. It's just from a filmmaking standpoint to an acting standpoint to technical craft, the way it looks, the thematic stuff it's going for. This is, well, it's set in the 70s. Because, like I said, it is a prequel. There is a point where somebody does pick up a picture of Gregory Peck, and it's like, oh, this is the guy we're gonna blah 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 set up Damien with. It's set in the 70s. It is as timely as ever, which a lot of people have been mentioning that, between this and Immaculate coming out within like a month of each other, and both having long gestation periods where they weren't like, oh, we wrote it and 3 years later it came out. No, both these movies took a while to come out. And the fact there's a lot of similarities in them. They have different tones, different things going on with the storytelling, but there's a lot of similarities. And a lot of it's about a woman's right to choose. That shit is in the air. Even, this movie had to have been greenlit, written, cast, shot before Roe got overturned by the scumbags in the Supreme Court. Um, but that's the thing about horror, man. They're best when they're not chasing the trends and they just smell what's in the air, and they just come from the gut. You can't see it, but I'm doing this, coming from the gut, and you catch a wave that you didn't even know was coming, and you ride that wave to success. So while this movie may not be lighting the box office on fire right now, I think people like me, hopefully people like you, when you fucks go finally see it, and the other people that have seen it that have been banging this movie's drum and come out of it like, what the fuck? That was good. Are you fucking kidding me? How did that happen? Um, I think this is a movie that's gonna have long legs. It's timely. It is scary. I think more upsetting and gets under your skin than like boo jump scare kind of movie. Um, this movie's impressive, guys. I gotta tell you. For whatever lows that I hit and sort of mediocrity that this franchise has been riding on since 1976, um, it's kind of almost all worth it just to get this movie. Honestly, this was a whip smart movie, and yeah, there's a little bit of that prequelitis stuff in there. Not a lot, to be honest. And whatever is there, you can kind of excuse just on the fact that you go, all right, it's a prequel, direct prequel. There's gonna be references, we get it, but it's not overdone, except for one thing at the very end, which is just a little bit of a like, come on, go fuck yourself. Really, you needed to include that in the movie, but the ending's great, and it set honestly, without spoiling, it sets up an interesting future for itself if they were to get sequels out of this movie. So yeah, um, I don't know. I think that's it. Talked a lot about the Omen. The Shout Factory box set is a good set. Good special features. The transfers look good. Except for Omen 4, there's nothing you could do with that because it's dog shit TV movie and it's always going to look like somebody just got the runs and ran it through a camera. Like it's just bad. But I would suggest picking that up. Um, and then whenever you can, see the first Omen. Pay for it too. Like support this movie. This movie needs to be um it needs to be lifted up. People, the studios and other studio people, these business minded dipshits need to know movies like this are actually like what people want and that they like it and that they're good if you put the effort into them. And if you let a real filmmaker, because Alcasha Stevenson, she's a real fucking filmmaker. This movie doesn't happen on accident. This is a real filmmaker. So go to your theater, rent it, stream it, buy it on disc. I know I'm buying it on disc. Support it. Don't pirate it. This movie needs your help. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll probably do it again in like a week or two. Probably gonna do it about Planet of the Apes since the new one's coming out. Surprisingly, funnily enough, yet again another Disney release of another studio's franchise after the pickup. Hopefully, the new Planet of the Apes movie is good because spoiler alert, maybe has the best batting average of any franchise in history. Like straight up, I gotta be honest with you. That spoiler alert, but week or two or three or whenever I fucking feel like doing this bullshit again, I will be here to talk about Planet of the Apes, the Caesar trilogy in specific. I'm gonna rewatch the Caesar trilogy. I can't watch all the five from the 60s and 70s and then the Tim Burton movie because I'm never watching the Tim Burton movie again. That movie's fucking dog shit. But I'm gonna watch the Caesar trilogy since it does seem to be more aligned with what those movies were doing and picking up that thread instead of like another reboot. So if you guys wanted to catch up and do that shit with me, watch the Andy Serkis Planet of the Apes movies, and I'll see you guys soon. Ish. I don't know. Maybe I will. Who fucking knows? I don't care. Yeah. Bye.